So the new Mortal Kombat just recently dropped, and I feel like honestly, for the most part, me and Austin were what's the word I'm looking for, Austin? I don't want to say excited, but like
Willing to spend money.
basically, it's the game that caught our eye that has been coming out like that had it coming out soon, other than like Payday 3, that caught our eye. And so we decided that we were gonna sit there and play it together. And today we are basically just gonna run through our personal opinions and I don't know if I'd necessarily review, but also kind of yeah, we're gonna review it. Um,
It's a retrospective, just not with the retro part.
Basically, and so we've kind of got a layout for it and what we kind of want our like to express and how we feel about it and stuff. So I feel like for Mortal Kombat, um, me and you have both been like we've talked a lot about Mortal Kombat, especially the PlayStation 2 games. Me and you kind of go for that. So the story throughout those has been like pretty interesting to us. The Mortal Kombat 9, 10, and 11. I don't think either of us have any on our channels of us actually playing, but we talk about it a lot and talk about the story a lot. And so I feel like that's kind of where we got to start off with for Mortal Kombat 1. You can take it away, Austin. Start us off.
Right, so the story of Mortal Kombat 1 opens up pretty much following the Aftermath DLC of Mortal Kombat 11. So we're in Liu Kang's new era now. Aftermath left us off with the Great Kung Lao. We time skip to modern day, so we're ignoring that basically. And now we have basically the plot of Mortal Kombat 1 happening, but just slightly different context. Instead, Liu Kang's the god and Raiden's the champion. And a little bit of the backstory's been changed for all the characters, essentially. I mean, Kung Lao's pretty much the same, but in the first section, he's really the only character that's the same.
Yeah, I really agree. Like I feel like for the new era of Liu Kang, he sat there and actually like he made it to where a lot of the people that he knew and was actually close to weren't so dickish to a way, especially with certain characters. One of the first people we meet is Johnny Cage, and throughout the story, he doesn't seem as cocky and like dickish to people as in the older games. But basically, you start off um with meeting these main characters uh for Earthrealm. And so I feel like the main ones that you got that are going to be fighting for Earthrealm are Raiden, Johnny Cage, Kung Lao, and Kenshi. And Fire God Liu Kang is trying to sit there and decide who is going to fight uh, for the tournament. And
Yep.
as we figured out, it's Raiden, as we talked about. And so we kind of you get to the part where you play as Raiden and go to Outworld to compete in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, so the whole first section is literally just centered around the tournament that's the equivalent of Mortal Kombat 1, where it's Earthrealm versus Outworld. Slight twist, though, is that the tournament is completely structured differently now. So now the tournament, instead of being like bracket style, it is offense versus defense, which it's been like that before, but the defenders get an entire team, whereas the offense has to select a single champion and see how far they can get.
Felled by a simple farmer.
And I feel like this kind of fixes an issue that Mortal Kombat 9 had with its tournament structure of some characters fought and then never fought again. And this kind of makes it to where, since Raiden is our champion and he is also the final character for that section of the game, his chapter makes sense
Fight well, princess.
that it's just him back to back fighting. instead of like jumping around and kind of having to fill in the dots with other characters, because it's like, well, we know that Raiden would have to be fighting constantly during that section. So I feel like that kind of fixes the chapter issue.
Congratulations, Raiden wins.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so one thing I think we would agree on is the fact that we're gonna kind of break it down into 3 sections. That's gonna be our tournament section right there. After Raiden wins that the tournament, the Mortal Kombat tournament at the very beginning, it is kind of back to Outworld and Earthrealm being basically at peace. Like, obviously, there's some people in Outworld that hate the Earthrealm people, but like for the most part, it's just a mutual relationship. But
Yeah, there's a general peace between the two sides. We get to see more of the culture of Outworld
it's really
during the
nice.
tournament section, including multiple races. We get to see the centaurs and all of them come back. We even get to see a brand new race of 6-armed creatures that we've never seen before in the series, which is pretty cool.
And
Tarkatans are not around though.
it is now a disease.
Yeah, and we'll see that in the once we get to the second section of the story, which is all about basically a secret covert mission happening in Outworld, with our main Earthrealm heroes minus Raiden. They're all going after Shang Tsung because he's starting to corrupt this new timeline.
See, like, I really like this part because, like, so whenever this happens, they're going to sit there and get Shang Tsung, and they run into a Tarkatan camp where Shang Tsung is trying to experiment on them, where they meet Baraka. And I don't know if I would say the first time, but like this is like a key part where Baraka like appears, and he's not like a bad person. Like, he's seen as a a, a character that people would actually like to see.
Like,
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah, I feel like they really flesh out Baraka's character a lot more. And for the first time, he actually gets his own playable chapter, because before he's really just been more of a side character, which he was really only in, at least the NetherRealm era, he was only in 9, and 11, and in 11 he was very much a jobber and didn't get anything at all
yeah,
to do.
basically.
He was literally just there to be a punching bag for a couple chapters, and then he was gone. I really like how they flesh out Baraka, make him a good guy. They change the Tarkatans, which I'm kind of iffy on the whole Tarkat disease.
It's weird. It's really weird to see.
I don't really know how much it really does for the story, to be honest. It makes Baraka a much more likable character, and it makes Melina a much more likable character. Generally speaking, I feel like you lose a bit of the lore because you're deleting an entire race
Yeah, kind of.
from
But
Outworld's category.
and like, it's also kind of weird because like, so like they explain how like kind of why Tarkat is like pushed out away. It's because like once they reach a certain like point of having the disease, it like drives them basically insane, and they start going for like blood. And like Baraka's literally like, yeah, like there's gonna be a point where I'm gonna like lose my mind basically and start going for blood.
Yeah, whereas before it was more of like they were just a race from Outworld, most likely from the Badlands, that kind of just got absorbed into Outworld,
Yeah,
either
basically.
during Onaga or Shao Kahn's conquests, and just kind of were under the heel of the Emperor. And
And
Baraka was just kind of a leader of that tribe.
and it's really cool because they kind of like, even though it's no longer really a race, they still kind of focus a good bit on these people and Tarkat compared to just being like, yeah, it's a race. Okay, there you go. Like, these they're here. Like, cool.
Mason, what do you mean these people?
That is messed up. But
But one thing I really like about Baraka's chapter specifically is the
we
fact that
haven't gotten there.
they use generic enemies.
We haven't gotten there. We haven't gotten there.
We're literally talking about Baraka. What do you
But we
mean?
didn't get to the part of the Shang Tsung and what he's doing. So he's experimenting on the Tarkatans because of Melina. He's trying to make it to where Melina does not get Tarkat. And so the Earthrealm heroes think that Shang Tsung is trying to like not help her. And so they stop him from giving her basically like, I want to say it's a cure, but like they just make it to where she doesn't turn to where she's fully got Tarkat. And so when this happens, it makes it seem like the Earthrealmers are plotting against Outworld because Shang Tsung was trying to help her. And it's kind of a lucky draw for Shang Tsung because like this is completely luck of this seeming like this and not Shang Tsung looking like a piece of shit. Like straight up, he even is like he admits it. He's like, yeah, that was pretty lucky of me to they like finding me like that. For some reason, Liu Kang's looking for me, and it turns out Shang Tsung, Shao Kahn, Quan Chi, and I think they mentioned Rain at that point. So they mentioned somebody else are like plotting to make it to where Earthrealm and
I mean, yeah,
Outworld.
Rain was there.
Was he?
He was in the scene.
No, I don't remember if he was like actually like they were like, yeah, he's with us because I knew he was there
Yeah,
with
yeah, and then he's
Tanya.
with them later.
He's with
Tanya's there,
Tanya.
but she's not a
Yeah,
betrayer.
exactly. So like the four of
But
them are the main
yeah,
people.
Rain is a betrayer.
But they kind of like talk about it, and it sets it up perfectly for their plan to kind of set in motion of Earthrealm and Outworld going back up to like actually being in battle and stuff. How usually in other games Shao Kahn wants it to be, basically. And so after that like happens, Kenshi loses his eyes. Not really too crazy important. We all knew it was gonna happen. But our people get captured, and that's where we pick up with Baraka and his stuff. So you can go ahead and talk about that, Austin.
The only thing that I was gonna bring up was that Baraka's chapter uses generic enemies, which is I think works really well in the game's favor. They do it also during Johnny Cage's chapter, where we get to see a generic type enemies face off. So that way it doesn't really affect the actual character's sort of win-loss within the canon. So that way it's not like this character's just a punching bag. Because we get to see more generic enemies get used as filler, since they still use the chapter system in this game, where each character gets at least 4 fights during their chapter.
And I don't think we've publicly said this, and so I think it's a good time to say this. And you can fix me if I'm wrong. Austin does not care for the chapter system because, like, canon wise, it makes it to where some characters are stronger or weaker, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
it traps the game because then it's like chapter 1 is Kung Lao. So we're obviously never going to see Kung Lao do anything extraordinary after his chapter's over. So for the
Basically,
rest of the game, if Kung Lao's in scene, he's going to just be a background character, and he'll never be useful again.
yeah, to a fair point. Unless he like does something, and even then, it's probably not gonna be something too crazy because they want like the crazier stuff going to the player.
Yeah, and a lot of characters just never get a chapter. So kind of missed opportunity, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
So
then we never get to see Smoke, we never get Havoc, Nitara. Like these characters just never get their own section to shine. So they're literally just jobbers or
it's people in the
characters
background.
just
Yeah.
to lose, to beef up the win loss of other characters. So I think them using generic enemies is very nice. We also get to see the use of Test Your Might a couple times during this segment.
Oh, true. I did forget about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so they do use that. So it kind of that's sort of the mini mechanic that's brought in, kind of like quick time events during X, um, or like the mini games in Injustice. It's sort of our small thing between fights to kind of break up the monotony of just constant fights back and forth.
And if you really want to, you can turn it off. But like, it's a cool little
Can you turn it off?
Yeah, there's a way to turn it off. It's kind of
Oh,
it's not
oh,
really
that's
like
cool.
cool, but also like it is kind of cool. Like, cause for people that really don't care for it, they can just turn it off. But it's a small little like thing in the game that makes it a little bit somewhat different and stuff. So you're not constantly just fighting and watching a story and then fighting and then what and so. But
Yeah, it's cool that they're making a lot of the lesser characters kind of brought more into the action.
yeah,
So Baraka gets a chapter, Reptile. Like these characters always are just kind of jobbers, they don't get to do anything, and now they kind of get their time to shine.
um,
Ashura
like
coming
Ashura,
back.
yeah, which is literally right after Baraka.
Yeah, a
It
character I was super hyped for, coming in from the Deception Armageddon era.
yeah, so we haven't seen her
One
in a
of my
while.
favorites from back in the day. It does kind of suck that there's not really a classic costume for her or any
The
of the
all
other
white, it looks
characters.
so nice.
Like there's just no classic costumes for any of the characters, which I feel is just a missed opportunity. Other thing is that, backing it up a little bit, Kenshi's chapter. I think that Kenshi's chapter is a huge missed opportunity because we get Kenshi before he's blinded. So
True, he's
he's
not that
missing
powerful.
he's missing most of his moves. I
Yeah,
would say he's missing probably 70% of his moves.
that's kind of the same though with Kung Lao.
Same with Raiden. He's
Not
also missing most of his moves until he actually begins the tournament, 'cause his is a split chapter. So for the first half, he has no electric abilities. Chapter 1, Kung Lao does not have the Razor Hat,
yeah.
so he's missing all of the abilities related to that. So it's nice because we get to see the characters develop, but it kind of sucks because while you're playing as them, you're not getting the full experience of the character.
I feel like even in that situation, like the characters still like it shows how like good they are. Like it kind of sucks because like it's a cool feature for the fact that you're getting to play as these characters and it's like they're actually progressing. Like we don't really get to see it with
Yeah, but
Kenshi
with
and Liu
Raiden, it's
Kang
cool,
or Kung
but
Lao.
Kenshi and Kung Lao, it's an issue because you play as their weakened version, and then during
That's it.
Ashura's chapter, you get to see Kenshi power up, but then you don't actually get to play
That is
as
true.
Kenshi with his telekinesis. And I will say I've really loved how they did the telekinesis because in the original 3D era, Kenshi got his telekinesis from Ermac. Ermac taught it to him. And in this one, they make it where Kenshi gets his telekinesis from attacking Ermac and having sent to absorb some of its power
Yeah, it still kind of like follows.
from Ermac.
And
So
this
it's
this
the
all
same
falls
sort
in
of thing where he gets it
Ashura's.
from Ermac.
This all falls in Ashura's chapter, by the way. Ermac appears, Quan Chi, uh,
Yeah, we'll come back to
Kenshi.
them.
Yeah, I would say we're definitely going to talk about those two a lot. But one thing I want to talk about with Ermac right now is so whenever they beat Ermac the first time, there's like a faint voice that you hear, and it's like Sindel, I miss you, some crap like that. And later on in the story, we'll reveal it. It plays a major part, and it's pretty interesting at this time, uh, seeing this happen and stuff. But for the most part, there isn't too much happening in this chapter, or I would really not even say Reptiles chapter, to be honest. Like, they're kind of just destroying the soul towers. That's really it. But once we get
Yeah,
to
I mean, yeah, everything's pretty much basic. I mean, you kind of that leads. They just go back to Earth Realm, and then that section just ends off. It is cool they finally confirmed the theory going on about what was going on with Ermac, and that King Jared is there
yeah,
later
that's
on.
yeah, literally it shows
Because
that.
that's how the next section opens up, is us coming to that revelation. Um, because we get to see the fact that Bihan is still an ass in this new era.
Yeah, he straight
He's still
up.
an ass.
And Scorpion, who is now what is it, Kuai Lang? What is his name?
Bai Liang.
Wily Yang, yeah, is now Scorpion and no longer Hanzo Hazashi. Scorpion and
Yeah,
Sub Zero are
which I
brothers.
don't like.
It's
Don't like
weird.
it.
It's really weird. I wouldn't say dislike it. I would say it's like a weird thing because I think Riley is a lot better than Bihan, but it's just weird seeing them like that. And there's still like a Scorpion Sub Zero rivalry that ends up happening, and it's so cool because Smoke and uh this time now Scorpion have that same like brotherly friendship that they had in like we kind of saw it in 9 and stuff. Uh
Yeah,
but
generally I would say that having Kuai Liang be Scorpion, it's a cool idea, but I would say generally speaking, it
it's just
hurts
weird.
the story
It's just weird.
because they're basically trying to get Bihan and Kuai Liang to be unique characters, but also have them active at the same time together.
It's just
And I feel
very
like at that point you
weird.
probably could have just had you they could have just had Kuai Liang be like almost like Noob Saibot. And I think that would have been a cool twist.
That would have been pretty cool
Instead
because
of just
then
making him Scorpion,
it would have been
because it
Noob
doesn't make
Smoke.
a whole lot of sense for him to be Scorpion. Yeah, because then they could do Noob Smoke,
That'd have been
and
cool, yeah.
did make sense. Also, Scorpion. I don't know when this stopped being canon, but originally the yellow coloring for Scorpion was supposed to be a mock, like it's supposed to be a jab at the
Just,
Lin Kuei
yeah.
because their main color is blue. So it's supposed to be like an insult to them because he wears their uniform, but yellow, basically calling them cowards. I don't know when that stopped being canon, but this basically completely throws that out. Also, Bihan is supposed to be an extremely good fighter, and it's not really portrayed that way.
No, he
He's
gets his ass
certainly
kicked.
good, but he's definitely not who he was in the midway timeline, where he could take on multiple gods and be fine. He's definitely not as strong as he used to be.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like, obviously, face of Mortal Kombat is Scorpion and Sub Zero. Like everybody knows that. Like, they might not be the top dogs in the story, but they're not gonna be tossed around real easily. Like, you
Yeah.
see Sub Zero kicking now General Shao's ass, and he takes on. I think one of them takes on Shang Tsung or something. Uh, or Quan Chi. It was one of the two. They fight some top
Both.
dogs. Yeah, they fight some top dogs.
It's them together. Shang Tsung with Quan Chi as a cameo, I believe.
And like they're up there like still. It's really weird seeing how they do it because like Scorpion's like, yeah, I'm gonna go start the show, right? All this other stuff, and that happens. And then once all this stuff happens with like the souls and like they've realized what Shang Tsung's doing, uh we kinda get to our third section, I'd say. Like this is about where the third section starts.
Well, the third act starts with the
And
Lin Kuei attacking the temple and all that stuff.
yeah, I
But
guess.
then we go to the coup section, I suppose, where General Shao is throwing, and it's pretty straightforward. Liu Kang goes to the palace, exposes everything, and that's basically that section of the game done and dusted.
Yeah, I mean that's really it. Like
It honestly, that section, it kind of just feels like a side quest to be to be honest.
to a fair
I could
point.
have done without the coup section because it basically burns up 2 chapters. Nothing too crazy. Then going into the 12th chapter after the coup. I mean,
That's when you play as Melina, right? That's
yeah, you get to play as Melina,
which is
and
very
that's where the
interesting.
big drop happens, where they reveal that
Dun dun
the
dun.
canon ending to Mortal Kombat 11 was not Liu Kang's ending in Aftermath. It was both endings, and Timekeeper Shang Tsung still exists,
Nope.
and he manipulated everyone. And
It's a
I
whole
mean,
multiversal thing. It's
I,
it's
I
weird.
like how he did it. I like the way that he manipulated everyone because he basically shapeshifts in Chronica, and then he uses Damashi as a guise to trick Liu Kang's new era version of Shang Tsung into
Yeah.
following him. And Damashi was the alter ego for Onaga, and there's so many Onaga references and setups. But they've set up Onaga so many times in the NetherRealm era
It's
that
very upsetting.
honestly, I'm
It's
not sure
very
how
upsetting.
much it actually means anything.
It is very upsetting.
Um, so then we kind of just go into the final charge against
Basically
Shang
Armageddon.
Tsung,
Like a
and
bigger
it
Armageddon.
leads, yeah, it leads into a new Armageddon.
It is a
And I'll be
multiversal
honest,
one. This
although the finale with the new Armageddon is cool, it still does not beat out the OG Armageddon.
I kind of agree. Like that was hype. But that I feel like it was
Like,
also built up.
yeah, but it's
Like
like they literally pulled the like Smash Bros. Ultimate. Everyone is here. Like they
yeah,
pulled
like basically.
every character out. It was like the OG Smash Ultimate.
And for those who don't know, in this part, like in this the very last chapter, you get to choose whoever you want to be.
Yes, and I will say
And
this
that
is the
is
best choice they could have made because it means that characters who didn't get a chapter now have a chapter, and
yep.
characters who either squandered theirs, and by squandered I mean kind of like how Kenshi and Kung Lao were not at full potential,
Hmm.
they can come back at full power now.
To show like all that. And so you're going up this
Uh,
tower. I'm talking about this a lot because this was like one of the like my favorite parts. And
yes,
you're
this was probably the best part
of
of the
MK1. Like it was really
story.
good. So you're running
I
up,
It was definitely
and
the
since it's
climax.
a whole multiversal thing. Like you're seeing some basic stuff where it's like a girl version of the ninjas, like a reptile female version, stuff like that. But then one of
Yeah,
the cooler
then you get the
things,
combo
the
characters.
combo characters. It's like General Shao and Johnny Cage mixed together. Uh, Baraka and Scorpion, like they do some like really weird ones, but it's really cool because it's like, yeah, I guess it could be a thing. Like why not? Why
Yeah,
couldn't it be a thing?
you're going into the multiverse. Basically, anything's out there. I, it's boring, but one of my favorite like battles during the Armageddon section is, and I think it's a guaranteed one because I've played through the Armageddon section twice. So, I mean, you've played through it at least once. So you can
I did it
confirm
twice.
about if you
So
saw it. Cyber Smoke.
no, I actually did
We
not, and I played it through
You did
twice.
not get.
No,
Okay, I got it during both of mine, so I thought that it was a guaranteed one because it was my last fight both times.
no, no.
Yeah, there's a cyberized Smoke that's he plays exactly the same as normal Smoke in this
Obviously,
game,
yeah,
but it's Cyber Smoke from he basically looks like Triborg. I kind
yeah.
of wish that they would have done the like
Original,
actual like the smoke design from
yeah,
like Deception, where his like body was gas, he had like the pants and like robotic parts,
yeah. That'd have been
for
cool.
like the
That'd have been
mask and
cool.
stuff. That would have been cool. But I do like how they do have a like modern Triborg design, because that means that they could do something with that in the future. But generally speaking, like the Armageddon portion was really well done. I do think that the missed opportunity was the fact that Blaze was not present at all.
Yeah, like the whole thing about Armageddon is Blaze, and then
Yeah, he was not even mentioned. The
not a
chapter is
thing.
called Armageddon, and we're at the Temple of Argus,
And
but
he's
Blaze is not even mentioned.
like, I feel like it doesn't even matter too much, but after you
Which I
win,
suppose the assumption could be the fact that we're in Shang Tsung's new era for the final
yeah,
chapter, so it's his thing. So why would he put Blaze on the temple? But then again, why would he have the temple at all?
exactly. But because like
So it doesn't make sense either way.
after you beat him, Liu Kang's like, yeah, cool, we won, all this stuff. Everybody goes back to their world because that world's getting destroyed or whatever.
Yep.
And
It's timekeeper, so it's collapsing in itself.
yeah, exactly. And so it spreads out. Well, then after credits, because nothing really happens after that. Like literally, they go back to the Earth. they have some tea. Liu Kang's like, good job, gives a thumbs up, and it's like, yeah. But the after credits shows Havoc basically being like a big bad for some reason, and he has like his little posse, but it makes like it's honestly kind of makes no sense because like why is he such a big threat? Like
Guys talking about, oh, we're about to bring an even bigger battle and unleash chaos on the multiverse.
yeah, like he's basically talking about like a multiversal war, like that
Which I
Armageddon
can,
scene like
I doubt
expanded.
that he's the big bad going forward. It's probably just like he's trying to set things in motion to cause more stuff to
Yeah, but
happen.
like it's really weird just seeing him out of all people. Like they could have done Blaze. They really could have done Basic again and been like, yeah, let's have it be General Zhao again. Or Shao Kahn, have him try and come back as Shao
Yeah,
Kahn.
and so I guess to wrap up the story, it should be mentioned the final boss is the Deadly Alliance, and although it makes sense
It's just
with
like
the way they did the story, I would say it's a pretty underwhelming fight, and it's probably the easiest Mortal Kombat boss that we've had in a long time.
it is very simple. Like
It is an extremely easy fight.
you sit there and knock around Shang Tsung like he's a bitch.
Yeah,
I feel like it
Shao
is.
Kahn from MK9, he is not.
Yeah, like I feel like everybody knows that though. Like Shao Kahn, MK9, crazy. Shinnok wasn't terrible. And then
I mean, his monster form had like the chest
the chest
blast,
beat
which was
and he would just
pretty.
spam it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty.
And then
But yeah, overall, I would say the story was pretty good.
that was a pretty good.
There is one major flaw that I would say it has in terms of like gameplay reasons, and that is you earn no coins and no XP. You don't get character XP, cameo XP, or profile XP while you're playing the story mode. You don't get any achievement progress other than 50% achieve or 50% story and 100% story. Those are the only achievements you get.
Yeah, and then
Um,
you unlock
it
Havoc. You unlock
uh,
Havoc, which is like I said, really weird. Out of all characters to unlock, you unlock Havoc.
yeah, I figured that it would be whenever you beat him in the story he would unlock,
Like
but it's whenever you finish the campaign, which just feels strange.
his Havoc
It
is seen
seems,
throughout the entire game, almost like
yeah, and every time that we see him, he gets his ass beat.
yeah, it is very weird, and so it kind of is underwhelming in that like area, but I don't know.
Yeah, and
Um,
a strange thing that is recurring across the entirety of Mortal Kombat 1, like it's all over the place, is there are so many Onaga references. They set up
s-
Onaga so much. He
sh-
appears in at least two of the tower endings. He's referenced multiple times in the story mode because his army appears, although
yeah,
it's not called Onaga's army
it's
anymore.
called the
It's
Dragon
now
Army still.
it is still called the Dragon Army, but now it is I believe the Chinese Emperor. It's
Still,
his Dragon Army, so it's no longer Onaga's, but it is still essentially his. The Deadly Alliance is the one trying to unleash it, which is exactly how it went in
no,
Deception. The Timekeeper Shang Tsung, he sets us all into motion by using Damashi, which is Onaga's basically cover to influence Shujinko. There's a bunch of reference to him in intro dialogues. I know specifically there's some between Liu Kang and Jiris that talk about a timekeeper Onaga who's said to be the strongest of all.
which is literally understandable
So
since
lots of references to Onaga, but nothing of substance. And we've had references in basically every game since X.
yeah, and I think there's a couple of small ones in 9, but nothing like too crazy.
I
But
don't
still,
remember any in 9, but maybe there were
maybe
one
I'm
or two.
crazy. I say like
I don't remember any from 9.
I thought there was like
But I know X because X is when they added the intro dialogue.
see, but like so like he's a badass, and so I'm waiting on him to pop up at some point. Like
Yeah, so you would assume that he would show up during some point. Once they reveal the temple, you assume that Blaze is going to appear. Neither of them do.
I was kind of hoping that
To be fair,
Dark
though,
Side would show
right?
up.
the NetherRealm era. The NetherRealm era is following the old one of going down into their bosses. So MK9 was Shao Kahn, and Shang Tsung from the original trilogy. X was Mortal Kombat 4 Shinnok. And then Mortal Kombat 5 is the Deadly Alliance. In this game, the main villains are the Deadly Alliance.
Right.
So it would make sense that for the next game, it'll either be an original enemy or it would be Onaga next. Because MK11 went in the route of a brand new boss. So it would make sense if Onaga came back and he was the villain for the next one, but at the same time, I can see them making a new boss and saving Onaga.
Like I'm
I can
just
see it go either way.
I want them to create an original enemy that's nothing really to do with multiversal stuff. I kind of I like the
Yes, I feel like
multiversal
that's
stuff to a
one
point,
thing
but it's kind of
that's
like
holding the game down.
it's kind of overkill
Like,
to a point.
yeah, we're kind of been dragging our heels with the whole multiverse timeline thing. Like in 9 and X, it wasn't that big a deal because there was only two timelines to worry about. MK11, they're like, oh yeah, no Chronica, and there's all these other timelines. And then this game, they just explode and go full multiverse. And I feel like they're falling into a trap of that everyone's making these days. Like all the big companies, like of just diving headfirst into the multiverse. And honestly, it's just getting boring.
There's too many like questions that are not going to be answered, and it's going to cause issues.
Yeah,
That's the
and
thing
it
about
leaves way too much open for the story. It leaves way too much open. Now, they can get creative with it, but the problem is most things with the multiverse have already been done before. You're going to get compared to them. So you can't be upset whenever people are like, well, this game or movie did the multiverse better.
Yep. And so like I feel like overall the story was pretty good. Like it's
Yeah,
just
I would give
there's
it probably an 8. I would say it's
yeah, I'd say
definitely
yeah.
a step above 11. But I would still say that it is below X and 9 for the NetherRealm era because it's kind of unfair to compare it to the stories
Mm,
in the OG era and the 3D era.
see that's kind of where I'd put it above 9 for the fact of 9 is literally just a retelling of the first 3. And for 9, I think one of my biggest issues was like kind of the ending of literally like everybody being killed off by Sindel and stuff, and like her being overpowered, which they kind of did in this. They made Sindel like super powerful in this, but she didn't really kill anybody other than Sindel, which is really
Yeah,
weird to
they
say.
make the evil Sindel way too powerful
Like she is
because she
extremely
literally beats
powerful.
good Sindel and like four other characters
No,
all
like
at the same time.
everybody. Like she beats freaking Liu Kang. She beats
Yeah,
Liu Kang,
that's my point.
Ermac.
Like they make Sindel's balance. I feel like that's just a big thing with Mortal Kombat story is the character balance is all over the place.
it's
Um,
really weird. Like I don't understand it.
yeah, I think that just about wraps up the story.
So honestly, now I think it's time for honestly just like the characters themselves, the roster, and one of the newer feature that MK1 is bringing in, the cameos.
Yes, the roster and cameos. The roster, probably the most important thing to any fighting game, is who you can fight as.
It's okay. Not okay. It's pretty. It's pretty. I'd say it's pretty good because like they have a lot of
Yeah,
like playing characters that you knew were gonna be in the game, but they also implemented characters that you probably wouldn't like be like, oh really? They're gonna be like main characters that you can play as. Like,
I do like how they are now willing to embrace the 3D era,
yep, exactly.
bringing back people like Ashra, people like Havoc, people like Nitara. Like it's nice to see that they're willing to dip their toes in
It's different,
because
you know.
before, I mean, we got Tanya, which I believe her first game was 4, which was kind of in between 3D and OG, I would say. So it's kind of I wouldn't call it a 3D, but even though it was in 3D. But it's nice to see that they're willing to fully embrace the 3D era nowadays,
Yeah, and
instead of just like Tanya and Kenshi were really the only like ones who carried over.
like you got all these characters, and they honestly like like it's really weird playing as him. So one thing me and Austin both agree on is the character of Liu Kang as a playable character. Uh, how Liu Kang does not have his bicycle kick.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a meme of the bicycle kick,
Like
but it's iconic.
it is an
They replaced it
iconic
instead
move.
with a spiral kick.
It's cool, but it's not the bicycle kick.
It's not the bicycle. It's not the bicycle kick. That'd be
Like
like if they took out Raiden's like flying leap,
yeah, like it's really weird. But he has a what is it? The
or
dragon
they took
kick.
out Scorpion's spear.
What is it? The dragon kick for Liu Kang? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, which he's always had the dragon kick.
The
So
dragon
he still
kick.
has one of his like he still has one of his two iconic kicks, but
It's pretty
it's
cool.
like it sucks that they removed one of them and kept the other. I would have liked to have seen both stick around because there's not really a reason to get rid of the bicycle kick.
Yeah, no, like not at all. Uh,
But overall, I would say that the roster's pretty good. There's a few stinkers, I would say. Um, I would probably, I would be fine if Reiko was out.
I feel like it's kind of nice having Reiko in just because usually Reiko and Shao Kahn are kind of compare a lot, but in this they kind of made him like a little
Yeah,
bit
but
like they
he's
played
just a
him.
jobber.
He really is honestly like a simp for Shao Kahn. They dress almost the same. They look almost the same,
Yeah,
and
because he's Shao Kahn's right hand man in this game.
it's just really
I could have
weird.
done without him though. Other than him though, I mean,
Everybody else is pretty cool.
Nitara's a pretty iffy pick.
I feel like she was
I feel
cool.
like she brings a lot of diversity in because we finally get like she's such an oddball, and we haven't really had a character like her since well, old Nitara from the old games, like giant wings, vampire. Like it is pretty unique. I would also say that Lee May's kind of a stinker. She does some interesting things, but generally her character's kind of underwhelming overall, which she was in the old games. She is in the new game.
I would
She has
say
some cool moves, but I feel like they probably could have used her slot for someone more interesting.
I think one thing that's honestly kind of cool though is, and this kind of ties back into the story, which I apologize to, but honestly, it's catching my head. The fact that Melina kind of outshines Katana in this one, she is
Yeah,
seen a
no,
lot more,
Melina gets a chapter. Kitana, I don't believe gets a chapter.
and she Melina's at the end of the game is the Empress, and so
Kitana's definitely backseating.
yeah, and it's crazy to see because usually it's the other way around, like Melina's the
Yeah,
monster,
I mean,
stuff like
I'm
that.
okay
The
with the
actual
change.
sisters,
I'm okay with it. But that also stems from the fact that I don't particularly care for either character that much.
they're not my favorites. Yeah, I agree, but it's still
Yeah.
something new for like those
But
characters.
overall, I would say the roster is pretty solid.
It's a pretty good standard roster. Um,
Yeah.
but since we got to talk about that roster, we got to talk about the cameo roster, and
Yes, cameos.
it's really weird seeing some of these people as cameos and not as actual playables. My main one, especially, is Sonya. Um, I feel like for Mortal Kombat,
I am
Sonya
completely fine
is.
with it.
I wouldn't say I'm like not fine, but it's just weird seeing compared to her like not being in the story. And
So
honestly, I'm kind of
the
okay,
reason
yeah.
is there is no special forces.
Yeah, not yet. That's not a thing yet.
There's no special forces. And if you look at the main roster, there's not a single special forces character on it.
Yep. And I'm okay with it.
They
It's just
are
weird
only
seeing.
cameos. I am completely okay with that because a lot of people complained in all the previous games that we're using too many slots on special forces when they are the least interesting characters, and I have to agree. Special forces characters are not
They
very
are very
interesting.
plain. Yeah. Darius is weird to see. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. I don't remember too much from Darius. I just remember him back in.
So he was from Deception, and
Yes,
he
I
came
remember
from
that.
Order Realm. He wasn't really that interesting of a character, and he wasn't really that popular, but I believe, he was leading the rebellion in Order Realm. So it would have been cool to see a little bit more of him. I believe in the story mode, he's working with Havoc. kind of weird, but at the same time, it kind of makes sense. Honestly, I feel like overall the cameos are pretty good. I
Yeah, they're
will
pretty okay.
complain though that there's not very many of them for such a large touted feature. It is severely lacking, and that there is way less cameos than there probably should be.
Especially the fact that the base character should have just been cameos.
Yeah, in the story mode, they make most of the main roster cameos, but in any other mode, like, you just can't do it. And it doesn't make sense because
Espe-
they already have it programmed. So why not just let us play with it?
Especially since they have like Scorpion, Sub Zero, and Kung Lao. Like, why these three who are also base players?
Yes, and I like how you
But
bring them up because if you also include Shujinko and Motaro, you have 5 characters who start locked,
yeah,
meaning that you have to level up your profile to level 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25, 5 per character, and you don't get to choose them. Uh, it honestly just feels strange, especially since if you play through the story mode, you're going to get no XP, so you could play the game for 6, 7 hours, just going through the campaign and still be level 1, and you're still going to be lacking 5 cameo characters.
yep. And so like you're kind of slacking in that field. And so it's kind of weird seeing it like that because like I want to know for later. You might think I'm touching on this too early, but it's gonna bother me. For DLC characters, how is it gonna work for them? Are they just gonna be
Uh,
base, or are they gonna be
it
both?
has been confirmed that there will be DLC cameo fighters. They just have not been revealed yet,
See, that's
as of the recording of this.
that is really weird. They should have done where the base players are also cameos because then
There have been leaked cameo DLC that's going to be part of the fighter pass, but nothing official has been stated about who they will be, so we're not going to touch on those
yeah, it's just really
when we
weird.
get to the DLC. But overall, I would say the cameos are pretty well done. I like the feature. I think that they could use a slight buff in terms of the speed of summoning them. But
Some
other
of
than that, I would say that they generally work pretty well. Some of them seem a lot better than others,
some of them
but
we
I like them.
personally like Austin likes playing as Cyrax or having Cyrax as a cameo just for his
Yeah, I like
fatality.
Cyrax.
uh
Yeah, he's got the best. He's got the best
I,
one.
I like my boy Scorpion. He's got some cool little like small things. Uh,
Yeah,
but
I
each
like
each cameo character's got some cool
Serena's
stuff.
cool. Kung Lao's pretty cool. Um,
Basically all of them. Like if you
my
really think about
biggest
it,
disappointment with the game is Shujinko being on the cameo roster and not the main roster.
and how, yeah, yeah, no, I agree. He
Very upsetting.
honestly like maybe I'm just not playing him right. I played his cameo a little, and it's not up there for me. It's not one of my favorites. Like it was kind of disappointing.
Yes, it's
Not gonna
very
lie.
dependent upon who you're fighting because just like in Deception, he steals the enemy's moves.
That is true. That is very true. It's just weird. I don't really care for his. I'd rather just
But we
have.
touched on it, so I guess we should roll into the DLCs. We'll start with the pre-order character, Shang Tsung.
Dude, that's such a
This
disappointment.
makes no sense.
It literally does not. Because he should have. Okay,
You play as him in the story mode.
you
He's
already
a
had.
fully
Yeah.
finished fighter. You're locking an entire character behind a pre-order, which is just kind of scummy.
Like
So it's
literally.
either cough up a couple bucks or pre-order our game before you know it's good.
Yeah. And so it's kind of dumb. Because like they do it a lot with like. Usually it's like Shao Kahn won't be the final boss. Okay, Shao Kahn will be your pre order. Goro isn't going to be anywhere really in there. Then Goro's going to be your like pre order. Like, that's kind of how it is. Like it would have been really weird if you did not unlock Shinnok, except
Yeah,
if you
I would say that
pre-ordered
the
him.
Goro one wasn't as bad because he's not in the story at all.
That's my
Or
whole
for
point.
X.
That's my whole
He
point.
doesn't appear. That one's okay, but it is kind of dumb because it's a day one character. So we're talking day one DLC. So stuff that is ready in the game on launch, but you gotta cough up an extra couple bucks, which is just dumb. But yeah, you literally play as Shang Tsung in the story mode. It it just feels like it's a cash grab.
So, yeah.
And I mean that goes straight into the fact of Quan Chi and Ermac in the story mode with a full move set,
Or DLC characters.
but they're DLC characters. So even if you buy the fighter pass day one, you still will not have those characters because they have not released yet, despite the fact they seem to be fully functioning in the story mode.
They have full move sets.
Maybe
They're
there's like
both.
under the hood stuff that's not ready.
It's weird because they're
Maybe.
both cameos too.
Yes, they both function as cameos and as main fighters. So it is strange that they are just completely omitted and are locked behind DLC, especially since Quan Chi is half of the final boss.
Like, Quan Chi is a big portion of the story, and
And Ermac is a essential character in the story
because of
during the third act.
Jiren or Jared. Jared. Yeah.
Jared.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought.
So
It's
it
just
just
weird.
it feels scummy and that they're just trying to wring money out of people.
Now we got to talk about
We'll
the
do the
others.
last MK character before we go into the crossovers. So the last DLC for the first fighter pass that was revealed is Takeda,
I
which
forgot about
it,
him. I'm not gonna lie.
it is very cool to see him come back. I'm excited, but because of the other characters, honestly, I'll probably pass.
I forgot Takeda was gonna be in this. I'm not gonna lie, but it's gonna be. It's weird because we saw him, Cassie, and all basically the MKX people
Yeah,
in this in the
the
story on
combat kids.
yeah, in chapter 15. There's a scene where
They
literally they all
appear.
get
They do
wiped
not
out.
fight though,
They all get
so
wiped out.
it is pretty likely that Takeda is not finished and he's still being worked on, which makes sense because he's DLC. So unlike Ermac and Quan Chi, who are in the story mode and have full move sets, Takeda has an appearance.
And it's very small, very small. Like,
It's yeah, it's very small. His DLC appearance looks different, and scenes in chapter 15. He doesn't have a move set yet. We don't know quite how he's going to play. He does look cool though,
I do like his design. Yeah.
but I would say that he's weighed down just by the fact that a third of the fighter pass is characters who we should already have for free.
Now can we talk about him? Because this
Yes,
is
now we'll go into the crossover characters,
and
starting with
I think we talk about Peacemaker. I think we should talk
yeah,
about Peacemaker
we'll do
first.
Peacemaker first.
We'll save the
Yeah,
other
I
two
was
for
thinking
here
of
in
it,
a
but I couldn't
second.
remember the name. Yeah,
Peacemaker,
so Peacemaker,
pretty cool. I think it's a
I
cool addition for the fact of we knew we were gonna probably get a
there was going to be a DC
DC.
character. We
Yeah,
already knew that
we
going
knew that was gonna
in.
be a thing.
So I would say overall, yeah, it's a decent enough pick because I would honestly, I think keep your superheroes in Injustice crossovers.
But you knew what like Warner
So
Brothers did.
overall, it's pretty good. Plus, it kind of made sense that we wouldn't be getting Aaron Black in this game. So having Peacemaker kind of fill the role
Fair
makes
point. Yeah,
sense. Okay, Mason, let's talk about him.
dude, it is so dumb. So okay, no offense to Omni Man or Homelander, both are cool characters. Both have amazing shows. Like we can both agree on that.
Yeah, they are both. No, they
They're
are
this
both extremely hype characters,
like they're
but
cool.
there's a fatal flaw with them, and it is we
They're the
don't need
same
both of them.
person. They're literally the same person. Like they're
They
like
are both representing evil Supermen.
like I think Homelander has heat vision and I think Omni Man doesn't. And even then, I don't even know if
Omni-Man
that's
has deep vision.
so. Then even
Doesn't he?
yeah, see exactly like that's my whole point. Like
Does he?
I don't think in the show it doesn't show him. In the comics it might have, but I don't think he has heat vision. I'm not gonna lie. Uh, but like you don't need both of them. That's just gonna take up a DLC spot that we could have given to
No, he does
anybody
not
else.
have laser eyes.
Okay, so see, I didn't think so. So like it takes up a spot, and you can obviously make them play differently, but at the end of the
Yes,
day,
and
they're basically the
the
same
developers have
character.
confirmed they will play differently,
But
but
like
how
still,
differently?
they are basically the exact same person. That's why
Yeah,
so
I
many
mean, they're
people
both
compare the
representing the
boys to
same thing.
Invincible. That's why there's so many comparisons. That's why that's a huge thing. And so it's one or the
Yeah,
other. I
at
feel
the
like
end of
would
the day,
work.
they are both evil Supermen. Evil Superman is how you Bruce break it down.
And it's pretty
And so I feel like it
disappointing.
would have made more sense save those both for Injustice 3. Now, to be fair, they're probably like, oh, they're bloody characters. We want to throw them in Mortal Kombat so they can do their gory stuff. But I feel like
True.
thematically, it would just make sense to just make Injustice a bit more darker
Yeah.
and then just have them fit in there because that's literally what Injustice is. What if Superman was evil? So
And
overall, they are hype characters and it's cool to see them in, but
yeah, like both great characters.
I
Like
feel like
we
it's
we both like them as characters. They're well designed. Characters really
yeah, but
cool.
personally, I'm not excited to see them both in the game.
They should
I
have
feel
chosen
like if
one
they
or the
could have
other.
thrown one of them in this game and then one of them for Injustice, and that would have worked better.
And it would like a lot of fans for one or the other would have probably been upset until Injustice 3 came out. Like they still might be upset because, like you said, the whole goriness of Mortal
Yeah, they
Kombat compared
won't
to
get to do their
Injustice.
bloody gory stuff, but
But still, like you're getting these characters in this in the games, the universes and stuff, and it's so cool. Like overall, I feel
so overall,
like,
I would say the DLC is pretty mid, and I'm personally going to pass on it.
especially since I'm pretty sure it's like $40. Like,
Yeah, I believe the entire pass is $40, which is almost the price of an entire game.
that's crazy. Like you sit there and spend $40 to get 6
You get
characters.
6 characters, and I think the leak said like 5 cameo characters.
Oh, really? So if you get 5 cameo characters, then I feel like it's somewhat boosted up, but we haven't seen anything on that. Like we don't know
Yeah,
as of
they
right
haven't
now.
officially stated who they are,
As of this recording, we do not know anything about the
and I don't even
cameos.
think it lists them in the fighter pass description.
Yes, so we do not know anything about the cameos. So basically, this is just based off the characters you actually get to play as, and
Yeah,
I think it's pretty low. Like Peacemaker's really cool.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean,
Kate is pretty cool.
I wouldn't say it's awful, but I feel like there's definitely like you could cut half of it out, and it would still like because like Quan Chi and Ermac should not be in it at all. They should already be in the game. And then Homelander and Omni Man, I feel like they're going to fill the same like position.
Yeah,
Yeah, one like Homelander's probably going to be a range base because of his laser vision, and Omni Man's probably going to be more of a brawler, like melee fighter. But overall, I would say the DLC pretty mid for Fighter Pass 1.
yeah, and I mean, I don't know. They could have done because honestly, I feel like they're gonna do stuff with like Shinnok at some point, and I really don't want them to. I think that's a character they probably will try and bring in.
Yeah, I also feel like I think that I mean I know that like the crossover characters rake in the money. They're generally bringing more revenue.
Yeah,
But I would like to see more Mortal Kombat characters inside of Mortal Kombat.
especially the 3D era ones, like the ones that we rarely see
I
anymore.
mean, I'd be fine with any of the characters. Just like because it's the DLC, we're getting 6 characters and half of it is crossover. I feel like that should be more of like a 4 MK to 2 crossover
Yeah,
per
that makes
pack.
sense.
Like I feel like we're getting too much crossover. But
And to a point,
yeah,
like
I mean those
later on, we're gonna run out of crossover characters that are gonna fit in the game. Like they're just gonna add in crossover characters that people want, and it's not gonna make sense. Like
yeah.
just because like you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. There's a difference in that. But I think off of that, that kind of takes us off the roster and cameos. Also, do you have anything else you want to bring
Yeah.
up?
No, I think overall the base roster pretty decent. The cameo is good. DLC kind of mid. But for the actual roster itself, the customization is
Ooh, that is pretty good.
honestly, I would say the customization is not great. Each character gets 4 different things in the customization menu, which is their gear. So each character has a specific piece of gear that can be swapped, such as the ninja's masks, Liu Kang's bracers, Kung Lao's hat. Generally, they're not anything crazy. They don't affect gameplay. They're purely cosmetic, which is good.
Yeah, not know what
They also
Injustice
they also
2.
get palettes. They also get the palettes, which is their colors, and the alts run through the palettes. So any alternate costumes will just be separate palettes. Overall, it's all right, but I feel like there's a severe lack because right now on launch, you have their base skin, and some characters have one alternate skin, and that's basically it. And I don't even think the entire cast gets an alternate on launch, which is kind of insane
Yeah.
because it's a pretty normal thing that characters will have a standard outfit and an alternate outfit on launch. And I feel like there's a severe lack of classic costumes. We don't have a classic costume for any character on the roster.
And they're not really.
I feel like there's a big issue with that because it just feels like they shipped a little too early without fleshing that stuff out.
Like, I feel like there's just not. I kind of like it because it's not crazy amounts to where you're not going to be able to unlock everything. But, like, in Mortal. Or I remember mainly in Injustice 2, the fact you could sit there and customize, like, a bunch of stuff, like the
Yeah, you
weapons,
can
the
customize
masks,
pants,
the
your weapon, your headpiece, and your torso piece.
like that's crazy. Like,
So it's like there were 4 things to customize on there. But outside of gear and palettes, you also can select taunts.
which is pretty funny.
Eh,
Very, very
I
basic.
mean, yeah, I mean changing your taunts, not nothing too crazy there. And then your finishers, which I mean, yeah, you have finishers. Not really much to customize there.
Yeah, so you just unlock them. You just learn to get them.
Yeah, they'll use their in customized menus because they're unlockable.
Like, you get the brutalities mainly. That you don't even really get too many like fatalities. Like,
Yeah, but yeah, that's generally the roster and their customization pieces. So I think we're good to roll into the bonus content that the game has to offer post story and outside of just normal 1v1s.
and I I think the thing we should talk about first with that is just the very
I think the
basic thing.
shrine.
I was gonna say the towers. Every Mortal Kombat's had it. It came back cool. Now we go into the shrines.
Yeah, the towers they function exactly the same as they did in X and 9, which is much better than they are in 11 because the towers of time are dumb. But
Yeah,
anyway,
they really
the
are.
shrine. The shrine is our crypt replacement,
And
and I hate it.
it is not good. It is
I hate it.
very
It is the shrine is you enter the shrine and then you throw 1,000 coins in and you get an item and that's it. There's no longer any kind of exploration, no world to see. It's like I would even be okay if it was like MK9's
MK9's
crypt,
was really good. I really liked that.
where yeah, you're just like walking through a graveyard. I'd be okay with that. It's just now it feels hollow and lifeless. Like it feels like they just couldn't have been bothered. They were like, yeah, just give us 1,000 coins and here's your item. You don't need to explore. Which is weird because MK11 had the best crypt we've ever had.
Other than the fact it killed off characters, but we're not gonna talk about that.
And well, I'm just talking about the actual like world of it and
Yeah,
like
yeah, I
walking
agree.
around it and exploring is the best we've ever had. And it honestly kind of had me hyped for like a Shaolin Monks remake or sequel because of the way the gameplay with it flowed, where a third person like action game, essentially, where you could explore around. And then we went from that to the shrine where you hit a button
And
and
that's really it. That's
then
all.
you
You
then you
wait
go
on this
back to the
dragon
menu.
to spit fire, which you literally can't even skip.
And it takes fucking forever.
Yeah,
It should
it
be
is.
instant.
It
It
is
needs to
a
be instant.
super, super like
Because if you go in with because
tedious
you only
thing.
do 1,000 at a time, you can't spend more than 1,000. So if you go in with 25,000, you're going to have to sit there, wait for the animation to go 25
25 times.
times, and you're gonna be there a while.
You're gonna be there for just a good couple of minutes, just sitting there watching this dragon burn the thing, and then you get an item, and
So
like,
Shrine, I hate it.
it's pretty dumb.
2 out of 10.
Yeah, basically,
Actually, 1 out of 10.
like
Fuck that
very,
thing.
like very
It's awful.
dumb. They could have done something way better for it.
Okay, so now the big thing that this game was hyping.
And
The
it's
big one. Invasions.
they're okay. I would
Yeah,
say
they're all right.
they're really cool for an idea of making it to where you have something else to do after you complete the story instead of just doing the towers and then be like, okay, well, I'm done. Unless you're someone that's really
When you
big into
first
online
load it, it's
fights.
cool. But like it starts to drag pretty quick.
Yeah, like there's a whole thing with it where each invasion has a season for it. So each
Yeah,
season,
so this is a seasonal game, just like most games these days. No battle pass though, which is good.
it's just like, so this season, it's pretty cool. I'm only touching on it for this season to kind of explain the invasion. It gives you like a slight story to it, to why like this invasion's happening. So for this one, it's
Yeah, the
Scorpion,
invasion gets
stuff
a
like
gets a
that.
little story. The areas are probably unique to it, so whatever the next season is and seasons after, there'll probably be an entirely new invasion mode built up, new story, new costumes and stuff.
Because like you unlock these, or you get these coins that you can basically spend on seasonal merch. And they're really not hard to get the coins. It's actually pretty easy to
Yeah,
sit
but I
there and
would
get
also
if
say
you
that the
play
seasonal
Invasion.
merch is also not amazing. So every character gets a costume, and yeah,
Like
that's
they're
it.
okay. Like, so it works for some of them. Like right now, it's literally Scorpion's thing. So Scorpion's costume looks pretty okay.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
all red and yellow, and some characters just do not
like Liu
look good in
Kang's
red
looks
and
pretty
yellow.
good. Shang Tsung has one. It's like an orange with it. Uh,
Yeah, it just
there's just like a few
honestly,
characters like
it's
that.
pretty iffy. When they get to the more unique seasons,
Then it will
if
definitely work a
if
lot
it
better.
works like seasons from 11, 11 had some really interesting ones, like the Quan Chi season, where they gave characters a Quan Chi skin, or the Devora season, where they gave several characters Devora-esque skins, where they became like monstrous bug creatures.
Let's see,
If
that'd be
they
cool.
start getting more unique with them, cool. Which them doing a super simple one for season one makes sense because they had to put it out on day one. So hopefully the next seasons will be more interesting, but this one's pretty basic. Yeah, evil scorpion from the multiverse. You just go through each world going onto tiles and
That's just
you do
Hanzo.
fight after fight after fight after fight, occasionally do a tower.
The
You
towers
get a
are,
special item
eh.
that is eh most of the time. I mean, there's different ones you can get, so some of them are good, some are not. There's a level system, so as you progress through and do more fights, you'll get XP, level up, get better stats. But overall, I would say the invasions, although a good idea, I would say that they need more development and more to flesh them out.
One thing we also talked about together is the fact of the tiles. The tiles are, they're not bad, but it would have been a
Yeah,
lot better to actually be
the
able to free roam.
structure, I would describe the structure like a board game, where you go from tile to tile.
You'll have like an
If
ambush,
you
you'll
could
find
freely
shops.
explore it, similar to Deception's Conquest or even Armageddon's Conquest, where it's more linear since they're trying to build a structure and a story to it. Uh, any of those conquest modes would function much better and be more fun, I think, because then they can actually like hide things in places instead of like I believe there's a secret once you finish the tutorial in the technically it's the first area if you say the tutorial's area 0.
Yeah.
The first area you go to a tile and they're like secret hint blow up the earth or something like that. And so you have to do a specific fatality to cause the secret. It's like you got a hint, but they also can't just be like, okay, well, this tile's the one where you have to blow up the earth. Because people finding out would have to literally go to every tile and try every fatality or brutality. So they have to give hints, but because they're giving hints, it's not really a secret anymore, is it?
Yeah. And then speaking of secrets, the secret fights. They bring back this whole thing of being like, oh, secret fights, like, big thing was like Reptile being a secret fight, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be in the
And,
vein to Reptile, or Jade,
yeah, like stuff like
or
that. And
Chameleon.
they are not interesting. They are nothing really. They're just like
Yeah, they're random,
they're an extra
so
fight.
it's not like you have to like do a secret thing and then go to a secret area and like find them. No, just every once in a while you'll just get a secret battle that'll pop up.
And
Every
it's
once in a while, whenever you're walking, you'll get ambushed.
not like it's
And
anybody
it's
important. It's just a
generally, yeah, it's not anything super crazy interesting.
it's usually just a character that you know. It's just like
So
a lot. It's
kind
it's
of
weird because the invasion is mainly like, so it'll be like Kung Lao, but it'll be Shaolin student. It won't be Kung Lao. It'll
yeah, it
be
doesn't use any of their actual names, which is interesting, I
like it's
guess.
it's weird how they did it. Like they could, like, because they don't really change too much about him. Like if they would have been like
Yeah,
Shaolin
no.
student and use Kung Lao and then just made him wear like no hat with like Shaolin, like a uniform, like stuff like that. It would have made so much more sense. But
Yeah, I feel like it honestly would have made more sense if they used more generic looking enemies like they did for
the story,
Baraka and
yeah,
Johnny Cage's chapters. Use generic type enemies and then use the actual characters on the roster for the mini bosses and boss fights. That would have made more sense.
like it's just it's really cool. It's fun to try, I would say.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean it's an interesting play, but I wouldn't marathon it
yeah, no,
because it does get pretty samey after a while.
like it's kind of different from the fact of, if you do a tower, you have to go. You're basically going from fight to fight. In this, you can actually
Yeah,
move
you're
around and
essentially playing the Towers of Time without doing Towers of Time.
yeah, like you're walking to
Because
different
there's the
like things.
modifiers, there's consumables, there's all that stuff.
And
But
it's just like for the most part. Oh, by the way, you also get to level up your character. And
I already mentioned that.
no, no, but did you mention the fact that when you level up, you get points?
Yes.
You did? I don't remember.
I did the points, but I said that you could level up in your like
Yeah, you
stats
you
go
get
up.
certain stats,
I didn't bring up the
and
points, but
well, I bring it up because for me personally, I've been playing and I've been just mainly putting it into like my attack and my defense. There's like 5 things you can put into,
yeah, there's definitely ways to metagame it.
and you literally, if you do it right, it makes it to where basically the bots don't do any damage to you really, and you just tank hits. And so basically, like the only reason to play it is to get the points to do both the shrine and get the seasonal items and stuff like that.
Yeah, you also level up very quickly. So if you're trying to level up your character or your cameo or your profile to a certain level, the best bet is to avoid the towers because it's pretty slow and just go for invasions because there's invasion battles are a single round, whereas the towers are 2 rounds, just like normal
It
MK.
depends. Some of them are two, but that's like special
Some
events.
of them are 2, but generally, if they're not attached to a tower and they're not spawning multiple enemies, it'll be a single round.
Yeah, but I mean it's a very basic mode to play.
I would say the invasions are good, but they could definitely use some improvement.
Yeah, and like once you get done with that, that's so
That's
far
Mortal Kombat
that's Mortal
1.
Kombat 1. Yeah, that's really it. There's of this
Generally,
moment,
I
it
would
is it.
describe Mortal Kombat 1 as a good game that's lacking in content.
Yeah, there's a lot of positives about it, but like there's small things that they could have fixed that would have made this game like one of
Like
the
I
out
would
there
say
games.
that because they raised the price from $60 to I believe it was 70.
Yeah. And it's
But I feel like for the price, you're not. If you're really into fighters, I guess you'll get the playtime out of it. But I would say for the amount of content in it, it's not worth the price tag. My personal opinion.
like if you're a big Mortal Kombat fan, then yes, I think this is
Yeah,
worth.
it's definitely
It is
you'll
definitely.
definitely pick it up because you'll already own it by this point.
It is a great game. Yeah, it's a
If you're just
great
into
game if you're a
fighters,
Mortal Kombat
it's a good
fan, stuff
fighting
like that.
game. Yeah, the
But
combat's pretty solid,
yeah,
but there's a lack of content. It has the same amount of characters as a normal Mortal Kombat game on launch, but I feel like there could have been more, which they easily could have added 2 extra characters in Quan Chi and Ermac.
and
Shang
in all
Tsung should
honesty,
have been a
Shang
base
Tsung,
character,
he should have been the one that sat there and
and they could have made someone else a pre-order.
they should have made him Havoc's position. He should have been the one that
Yeah, he
got
should have been the
unlocked with
unlockable.
this
Yeah.
story. But overall, not a bad thing. Um,
Yeah, it's not definitely not a bad game. It is definitely good. I would say just at the current like as of launch, it is just a bit lacking in content.
yeah.
It definitely leaves a bit to be desired.
If you're willing to spend that little bit of extra money, I think it's a good game to play. It is a recommended game if you're willing to spend that extra bit of money. Just be like if you're a big Mortal Kombat fan, it's gonna kind of be like to the fact of it's gonna be like missing stuff that you would probably want to see in it, especially for like
Yeah, like the
people.
crypt.
Yeah, but if you're a person that hasn't really played any Mortal Kombat's too much, and you're just like, I don't really care about the story, I don't really care about the characters, then generally
I would still say it's not worth it. Because
yeah,
that's what most of it is building up to is returning things from older games and the story. If
but I feel
that's
like it's
not
a
something that you're interested in, it's generally not going to be worth it.
if you're
I would
wanting to get
I would
into
say
it,
if you're getting it for the gameplay is solid.
yeah, like
But
it's
you'll have to be prepared for it being a bit samey because there's not a lot of variation. There's not a lot of extra modes. All there is the story mode, towers, invasions, and that's it. Outside of like the basic 1v1s. So
like
like
online stuff.
online, which online really all there is for online is standard and King of the Hill. Uh if you can't even go into a private match and do training with a friend because it's labeled as coming soon. It feels like the game was rushed out and it probably could have used an extra month or two in the oven. That's my opinion. It feels like it's lacking in some areas. There's a lot of things that seem very obvious that should have been in the game, like tag team mode, raid bosses, and the stuff's just not there.
Yeah, I,
Yeah,
I,
good one, Mason.
I know. I was waiting on you to keep going, but then you just stopped, and I was like, okay. I would say it was pretty like the game is something to try. Like good Mortal Kombat game. I would put
Yeah.
it I'd put it second compared to X just
Out of the
because
4 NetherRealm era games.
yeah, out of
So
out of
Mortal
the
Kombat
four,
9, X, 11, and 1.
I would say it's pretty up there. Like probably
I would
second.
put it in third. I would say above 11, but below X and 9.
I
I
think
would put X the
it's
top.
even with X. There were some things I didn't like in X, but
There
I
were definitely things I didn't like in X, but I feel like the gameplay was the most solid, and I probably had the most fun with it.
for the most part, I think the story was better in this one. Uh, and the fact of there's more things
I
that
wouldn't
cost
say the
me more.
story was even better. I would just say that it's just more interesting because it's more original.
I kind of agreed on that. There's more stuff
'Cause
going on and stuff.
X is just a retelling of 4, but in the future.
Yeah,
Overall, I would say that the game is good, but I would say it's not worth the $70 price tag. So I would say like if you see it on a sale, then
not sure,
yeah, I
not
mean
sure.
it's definitely worth the pickup. But at least as of now, it's not worth the price tag.
But
Unless you're
also,
just really into fighting games.
this is mine and Austin's opinions. This is our thoughts on the game. Please let us know like if y'all think any other things and like what you think we missed that we should have talked about, stuff like that. These are just things that like we thought we would like to mention and talk about, and stuff like that. But we really like hearing like what other people think and stuff. But yeah, um, Austin, do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, Mortal Kombat 1's pretty mid.
Shut the fuck up.
Nah, it's good. It's good.